In today's show, we discuss the Silurian Hypothesis. Have there been advanced civilizations before us?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Taya Boya. Taya, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
What the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
Come on. Tradition dictates that you must say hi to the audience. Come on, you've been doing it really well of late. Let's keep up that tradition.
Hello, audience. I'd like to share with you the wise words of Dr. Isaiah Henry Atamba.
No, please.
The man who climbs the baobab tree and the man who drinks palm wine and watches him. These two are not the same man, but only the wisest know why. But only the wisest know why. Wow.
Everybody knows.
Amazing.
Excuse me. That's bloody obvious, is it not? Two people, different people, one's climbing, one's not. They're two different people.
That's for the profane. The people who don't get it, they just think that this is the wisdom of Dr. Isaiah Henry. This is his genius, that he separates those with the pure of heart and those the profane who don't understand the majesty of what he's saying. I mean, anyway.
This is Emperor's New Clothes, isn't it? Everybody's pointing thinking he's brilliant, but he's talking absolute nonsense.
He isn't. He's actually talking about cosmic consciousness. I'm going to write.
How are you deriving that from that statement?
Because the baobab tree represents enlightenment. When you climb up enlightenment, the man who's actually doing the work, if you like, of actually climbing up the baobab tree, but the man who watches him also, figuratively speaking, also reaches the top of the baobab tree with the man who's actually climbing. And yet, the two are not the same. Do you see?
I rest my case.
I did try to explain that. I mean, I'm sorry you don't get it, but I'm sure some people out there get it. That's important.
I bet most of our audience are scratching their heads at this logic. Oh dear, how you found this guy? I hope it's just a I don't know, a ploy, and it's a humor sort of thing, because some of his quotes are just nonsensical. Let's be perfectly honest. Come on.
Well, look, I mean, we'll quickly get onto our subject because we have to, but very quickly, have you heard this? Because this is a subtle form of racism, if you don't mind my saying so. Huh? Have you heard this? You know the sound of two hands clapping, but have you heard the sound of one hand clapping? You've heard that before?
No, what, the statement or the fact of watching it? No, I've never heard that.
Oh, well, I apologize. Okay, sorry. That's a well-known Zen koan. I thought everybody knew it.
Okay.
You've heard the sound of two hand clapping. Yeah, what's the sound of one hand clapping? And it's a Zen koan. It's a very famous one. I'm really shocked you don't know. And you can check out.
The sound of one hand clapping is normally if you're smacking your child who's running away. That sort of sound.
Okay, so you're wrong. But the whole idea of a koan is that you have to work at understanding it. That's the whole idea.
Okay.
And just in case you think I'm kidding, you can actually look it up afterwards, and you will find. But don't look up the answers, because it's not going to be the same. It's not going to mean the same thing.
Okay.
If you don't struggle to understand it, you don't get the benefit.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So there we go.
Let's park that one.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Maybe we should do an episode on koans and things. We'll see.
Maybe. Okay. Let's move on with today's show. Now, the show is an interesting one. Although before we get on, sorry, audience, for keeping you waiting again. But again, I want to thank you all for your comments and the engagement, first off, in the TNT Talkers Facebook group, We are getting some engagement there. We are getting people joining, but not in the numbers we expected, considering our listenership around the world. Please, please, please join us on Facebook on the free open group called TNT Talkers. We are active on there. You can chat with us directly rather than having to leave comments on the platform you consume our material on. So please, please join us. It will be great fun to have you on there to debate with you. And if you're even making some good points, we could invite you onto the show. Anyway, on with today's final topic of discussion. It is the Silurian Hypothesis. Have there been advanced civilizations before our own? Tayo, do you want to kick things off and explain what the Silurian Hypothesis actually is?
Well, as it's not one of mine.
It's one of mine, but you did some good research on it.
Well, the Silurian hypothesis is a posit from a gentleman named, what's his name?
Adam Frank and Gavin
actually,
Schmidt.
Actually, is a gentleman named Martin Rees.
Oh,
and
I haven't got him.
He was an astronomer royal, which means, British establishment and big cheese. So an astronomer royal is obviously chartered. Is it chartered? Is that the expression you use? Recognized by the crown as being top dog in his field.
Yeah.
And he proposed a thought experiment and suggested that advanced civilizations existed on Earth before humans. So his thought experiment was this: imagine an advanced civilization that had everything that we have, but is hit by some awful, catastrophic cataclysm, which is probably a neoplasm, never mind. And this catastrophe, this cataclysm, this was his thought experiment, could it wipe out all traces of that civilization? And the reason he was asking that is, are we guaranteed to leave behind us artifacts, traces that we have been here? Is there something we can do to prove that we were here for future civilizations? This was the purpose of his posit, of his hypothesis.
But didn't actually the Silurian name actually come from a pop culture? It was from Doctor Who, wasn't it?
Correct.
So it was a race of beings, advanced civilization.
The lizard people, baby,
people before humans, and it was obviously depicted in Doctor Who. Those of you that may not know what that was, it's a science fiction program in British TV, which has also been exported worldwide by the BBC. So you may have heard of the show. But they spoke about this race of beings called the Silurians, who existed before the human race, and that's where this hypothesis arose, because it was due to the fact that could there have been, due to the longevity of the planet Earth, 4 billion years, the possibility of races before our own. But as Tayo's rightly said, where's the evidence of that? You couldn't see it in artifacts, in buildings and things, because they just wouldn't have survived the test of time. So the thought experiment was to see whether there was other traces that could be discovered that would then lead to the fact that this race actually existed. In fact, this actually came about more to do with the possibility of life existing on other planets before our own, because our own has had a bit of a tempestuous issue in terms of tectonic plates moving, landscapes changing. So if there were any evidence of previous civilizations, they could have been destroyed, been lost under the sea, etc. Very difficult to find. But on other more static worlds, such as the Mars perhaps, there could have been some examples of this occurring. So we would have been able to look back on some of the remnants of the planet and see if there was indeed any sign of advanced civilization. But then they obviously thought, well, if we can use it on a far distant planet, Mars's moons or Mars itself, why not use this hypothesis on our own and see whether we had any previous civilizations?
Well, yeah, I think that's a little. We're actually quite a blessed planet, to be honest with you, because we've got. This is one of the things I'd like to talk about in a future show, perhaps. But it looks as if Earth was designed to harbor life. The designers may have programmed into it periodic cataclysms to, well, as a painter might paint over his, might destroy his painting and paint over it again and start all over again because he just wants to. Something along those lines. But actually, our sun is relatively stable. Our planetary neighborhoods, from a planetary point of view, we've got two very large planets in, I believe it's Saturn and Neptune. If you're an astronomer and I'm talking nonsense, you know which two I mean or should be talking about.
Well, it was Jupiter that picked up a lot of our muck.
Yes, well, two of them,
Yeah.
they pick up a lot of our, a lot of objects that would otherwise threaten us because their gravity wells are such that they manage to protect us. And so when you're looking at it, we're quite fortunate. And the idea that there have been cataclysms, for example, I've got here, I can't pronounce this. How do you pronounce CHICX?
CHICX.
ULUB. Chicxulub or something. I don't know.
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
kind of weird. Chicxulub asteroid impact. There's a major asteroid impact that could have caused mass extinctions because obviously we're going back to this idea that we used to have dinosaurs and they've all gone and something happened to them.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, by the way, I've always wanted to ask a paleontologist or one of that crowd, believe in evolution, and say, why couldn't it have been a virus? Why couldn't it have been a bacterium? Why did it have to be? Because they were all lizards, weren't they? I mean, dinosaurs are lizards. So
no, there was some sort
dinosaur
of
actually means old lizard, so that's what dinosaur means.
Yeah. But there was some flying ones that were derived of the precursor to birds, were they not?
I don't, as you know, I poo-poo the whole evolution thing, so nobody's a precursor to anything. But just in my opinion, I mean, on the other hand, you do have to think that we used to have floating forests. So we used to have floating forests, and they all disappeared. So now that I think about it, yes, asteroid impact is actually more logical. So I take that back. There are other reasons apart from the disappearance of the dinosaurs to think that it was an asteroid impact. And besides which, we've got the impact point in Mexico, don't we?
There's a huge
Gulf of Mexico. There's a huge crater there.
Enormous.
So yeah, okay. So I'll take that back. Anyway, if such a thing happened, you see, this is where it gets interesting. It's all hypothetical, but then you start asking questions because there are little niggly things that make you think. Now, I'm going to come to one of them that you sent me recently. There's a picture of 4 different artifacts from 4 different places on the planet, ancient artifacts, which are unaccountably similar.
Yes.
Not only are they unaccountably similar, they appear to show quite advanced technology.
Yes, something.
So that's
flying,
really kind of weird.
But
also really kind of weird, and even better known, I think, by many people, although the details, they might not know the details, is this. That almost every culture has a flood myth that is very similar. Why would that be the case? There seems to be a racial memory of a flood. And I think we've spoken about it. Were we going to speak about it?
Yeah, we did speak about it regarding whether the biblical account
the Sahara Eye.
Yeah.
Could have been Atlantis.
Yeah. Obviously, in biblical terms, there's Noah's Ark and the Great Flood. And as you rightly say, a lot of the other religions as well seem to account for a big body of
All over
water.
the planet. All over
Yeah.
the planet. People
Whether it
talking
was all
about
over
this
the
big.
planet, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't. But there are examples of a flood from different cultures around the planet. So obviously there's
Nobody
no,
talks about a big fire.
no.
You see, a big fire, there's no big fire myth all over the world. There's no asteroid impact myth all over the world. What is all over the world? And so you have to ask yourself, well, why this particular myth? Why is there always a flood myth? If it's more than just a coincidence, because otherwise we'd have expected other coincidences, but we don't. We have this one repeated motif, and it seems to me that that's got to be based on something. The question then being, would it have wiped out ancient civilizations? And do we have to go back again and start from all over again? Did we lose everything?
Possibly. But the other argument could be had that if this flood indeed occurred, could it have been that all these civilizations, in quotes, that are spread throughout the planet were in fact in one relatively close place many, many years ago before the tectonic plates all split? So all of these could have been stories that have just been shared from one original source. So remember, the plates have moved around significantly, and that could have been a cause of some devastation for sure. But maybe it didn't wipe out the whole of civilization, but it just spread them around the globe. So that's a possibility. But you're right, they all seem to describe this flood, but could it all originate from the same source? Don't know.
This is your idea of one big landmass, which anyone looking at an atlas can see where Africa seems to fit
Yeah.
into America and South America, and Asia and bits seem to fit on
Was it
the
Panacea or something?
Pangea.
Pangea, that was it.
Pangea. On the, I always get on the eastern side. You know, I know my left from my right, but when it comes to east and west, I'm always like, I have to think about it really hard, which is really annoying. Yes, on the eastern side. But I don't like that idea so much. I'll tell you why. Europeans are up north in Europe. Asians are in Asia. Africans are in Africa. Black Africans and Black Africa. If we were all in Pangea, why weren't we more mixed up? Do you see what I mean? Well, why aren't just everybody just jumbled up as we're increasingly becoming jumbled up now? So in a central place like that, unless racism goes back millions of years and we refuse to live with one another, it's hard to explain why this distribution exists.
Well, the population of the planet was not the numbers that we have now.
Yeah,
it
but
was far, far less.
Why didn't we intermix?
Because
and how do we know that it was far less? See, how do we know? Because we're talking about an advanced civilization with advanced technology, moving, especially based on those images which we'll talk about shortly, that seem to show what looked to me like flying machines or something, or at least like a cockpit or something.
Yeah,
so,
that was. You see, that could go back to my favorite subject.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
You know, if you don't like Dr. Isaiah Henry, I really don't want to hear about aliens. And
well, yeah, that could be the answer. It could be where we are attributing previous civilizations of intelligence that we think were there, when in reality they were not of our realm, of our planet. They actually came from beyond our planet. So they were extra intelligent life that came from afar.
Extra intelligent,
extraterrestrial, which was intelligent that came from afar. So yeah, so we're looking for perhaps technologically advanced civilizations on our planet itself, but it may not have actually originated on our planet. Instead has come in, and they were here a while, affected the planet for a while, and then left and to return again at some point.
Well, I hate to admit it, because I really hate to admit it, but there are two sub-Saharan African. No, what else would there be? The sub-Saharan. They've got to be
Hmm.
African. There are two sub-Saharan tribes that know of a star that isn't visible to the naked eye.
How is that possible?
They say they were taught by people who came from the sky.
Wow.
The star concerned is Sirius,
Mm.
and it's called the Dog Star. This is the nickname, the
Yep.
Dog Star.
Yep.
And they know the Dog Star, and nobody. I mean, so how on earth do you know the Dog Star? And they say, well, the people from the sky taught us about it, and there's quite a large body of folklore, if you want to put it that way, or myth, or whatever, or report. Especially when we went in West Africa, I forget the name of the actual tribe, West Africa, but I believe it might be the Zulus that I'm thinking of in South Africa, who've got this quite extensive story of the people who came from the sky, and back up to a large backup, have some kind of backing, if you like, or supporting myth to the Anunnaki story.
Do you want to elaborate the Anunnaki
I'm
story
not that well up on the Anunnaki story. These are ancient aliens who came,
from the
were amongst,
stars?
yeah, from the stars, were amongst us for a while, taught us many things. There's actually some images of giants, if you like,
Giants, yeah.
who in Babylonian, not hieroglyphs. What you when you carve something into stone? There's
Oh,
a
are
name
they
for.
not hieroglyphs?
Well, this is hieroglyphs, I believe, are Egyptian particularly,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
kind
You're
of
talking
language or something.
Babylonian now.
These are the Babylonians. So they had this hieroglyphs of 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 giants and
Humanoid giants that,
humanoid giants,
yeah.
and they call them teachers. Anyway, you talk about the Anunnaki, they taught us things. They
Mm.
were, they were teachers of things, but then they quarreled, as people tend to do, and there was a war, and they fought a war, and they managed to wipe themselves out. Idiots, like we might do if we're not careful.
Mm.
So there is that, and again, you do well. I mean, so first of all, how would you explain about people knowing about an invisible star? How do you explain that?
See, that's very difficult to explain. How could you? If they can't see it,
Hmm.
how would they know about it? But
Yeah.
if they explain that they do know about it and they were told by people coming from the sky, does make you wonder, who are these sky people? Are they aliens? Did they say they were afraid of them, or did they just come and
No,
teach?
there were teachers. There were teachers. They weren't
Teachers.
afraid of. They weren't afraid of them, but they knew they were inferior to them, but they weren't afraid. They weren't afraid of them.
It's
The
interesting, isn't
the
it?
Native Americans were afraid of them because they said they hunted them. These are the Navajo people. They were afraid of the sky people. They said they used to hunt them
Wow.
and I think enslave them basically. So they were afraid of them, but the
Is
others
it
were
the
not.
same people though?
Ah, good question. Were they
You see?
baddies?
Well, we've often, I mean, we're digressing slightly because this isn't a conspiracy episode. We're just trying to discuss the Silurian hypothesis here, but it does sort of make a segue across to, if it is extraterrestrial beings that have come in, as opposed to there being genuine civilizations on the planet which predate humans, there are there are sort of accounts of very different extraterrestrial beings visiting the planet, some benevolent, as you've already touched
Mm-hmm.
on, that could have been these people that taught the African tribes about the stars. And then you could have a malevolent group which had different reasons to be here, to farm us, maybe, to utilize us as slavery, or to use us as food even. I don't know. These are all
Oof.
speculation. I know. We don't know. We use animals as food on our own planet. So why couldn't alien visitors, some of them in particular, think the same? Use us as cattle. That could be an option. So yeah, you're not gonna have one alien, if there are aliens out there in space, that are all going to be benevolent. They're going to be some that want to use us as resource, use our planet's resources perhaps, and investigate who we are. Did they, as you say, you don't believe in evolution, so we haven't sort of just come about because of the planet. Could it be that some of these extraterrestrials actually seeded the planet? So that's where life came from, based on their experimentation by placing us on this planet to evolve. That could be also a factor. Now, I know we're jumping around here, but this one, it's also a possibility. If we're looking at ancient civilizations, whoever existed, you have to keep everything open, all possible avenues open, until we've got enough evidence down one particular avenue to sort of reinforce that one as the most likely reason that things did exist back then.
Yes, the it's all speculation, man. I don't
It
think
is
we're going to
speculation.
be able to go further than speculation because we do have some evidence, which I'll touch upon shortly. But in the main, obviously, science doesn't accept that there have been ancient civilizations. So we have to take it from there. Just to let you know that the West African tribe I was talking about are called the Dogon, Dogon. And they actually hold a celebration called Sigui, Sigui, every 60 years, which happens to mark the cycle in the orbit of Sirius.
Oh, wow.
So they knew something.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very, very interesting. But some skeptics say, yeah, they knew that, but they didn't know the rings around Saturn. So how come these people taught them about Sirius, but not about the rings around about Saturn? On the other hand, the people who support this alien visitors says probably because they came from Sirius, from the
Well,
Sirius star system. So
why
they're
not
not going to
talk
talk
about your
about.
place of home? Yeah.
You're going to talk about your place of home. You're not going to talk about rings around, which to you wouldn't be remarkable because you're a star traveling race. So what do you care about rings around Saturn?
Indeed.
Seen
Indeed.
all that kind of stuff before.
Yeah.
So there we go. It could actually, if you want to look at it that way, it's actually a reason to be even more serious about.
Well, indeed, because they're only going to explain to the people they find where they came from. Why would you explain? It's like us. If we send a message out to space-faring creatures like we did on Voyager 1 and 2, we sent those out in space. We spoke or put messages on there
Yeah,
from where we came from, which is
yeah.
planet Earth, the
Uh,
third planet in the solar system. We didn't go into detail about Neptune. We didn't go into detail about Pluto. We
yeah.
went into detail about Earth because that's our planet. The same could be said in this example, where if they did come from the dog star, it mention about the dog star because
Mm-hmm.
that's their home. So
Yeah.
yeah, that to me adds more credence, especially if this tribe know more about the dog star than they really should have, based on where they are in Africa with the limited resources that they had available.
Just before I crack on with the actual subject, I would like to say one thing. I'm not really sure it's a great idea to send out machines into the great out there, telling aliens how to find you. I, I just saying, okay. It doesn't sound like a great. If I had been there, I'd be like, yeah, that's not a good. We listen. Don't tell people that you're there. What did Confucius say? Walk softly, carry big stick. What we're doing is we're doing the exact opposite. We're making a lot of noise, and all we've got is a couple of nukes, man.
I know.
Yeah. Not, not,
Although,
not.
although, although, I think talking about that, if there are sorry, not ancient, if there are extraterrestrial beings out there, we may not have the tech they have, but now that we can split the atom, they're wary of us only because that technology can cause a lot of problems. So, yes, we may not be advanced as them in terms of the machines they use to fly, perhaps, and travel around, but we've still got access to the very products that can cause them and us real problems, e.g., the nukes. So yeah, that's a very good friend of mine and Tayo's actually, who was a friend on our show, said that it could be that the aliens know the kids have got the matches.
However, again, digression. Don't worry, guys. We'll get back to it shortly. But again, to digress a bit, we do remember that one of the better reported cases of unidentified flying objects happened in America over a United States armed forces base that had nukes,
Yes.
and everything got switched off,
Mm,
didn't they? They switched
absolutely.
off the base, basically.
Yes, they
All right.
did.
So, if you can do that and
Mm,
cause a national panic because these things showed up, all your lights went out, nothing worked, they're not sure they could be that worried about our nuke because the nukes won't take off.
no, exactly.
So
They know
anyway,
we've
just
got
saying.
them, but yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Leading on that, there's actually a consensus which is quite interesting. I only discovered this the other day. You know, mutually assured destruction,
Mad.
MAD, which has sort of we have used as the reason why nuclear armed nations haven't used their nukes, is because they know that it would escalate and everyone would die. The other line of interest has come about recently saying that the reason why they they haven't used them is because they can't. Because every time they they do tests or they activate them, all of a sudden you've got lights in the sky and oddities around those locations. And it's been reported recently that China, Russia, and some other countries that possess nukes have also had similar stories and accounts of their bases being tagged by objects in the sky that they can't readily explain. And it's
Mm.
been, why now that this stuff is being revealed? I'm quite perplexed. It's been
Well, it's been
hidden
going on for
for
a
many,
while.
many years, but it seems to be now in these last few months that it's being revealed. It's almost like there's a drip feed going on of trying to accustom the world's populations on the fact that there are possibly extraterrestrial beings, and we're now getting sanitized with all this information that they're there and they're watching and they're in our airspace. And it's almost like before where everything was hidden. Oh no, there's nothing like that. Don't believe that nonsense. Now it's all these countries are now quite happy to reveal, oh yeah, we've seen stuff in the sky. We don't know what they are. They come around our bases. What? Where's this shift come from? That they
I
seem
would
to
say,
be revealing it all.
I would say social media. I would say social media. For example, what you just said about lights in the sky being seemingly interested in nuclear technology, well, not technology, nuclear
Facilities,
warfare,
really. Yeah.
nuclear warfare. That's been going on for quite a while. And I have read when we were researching what happened in the that Russian pass where people died. I forgot what it was. A conspiracy
Oh,
theory we did.
Dilatov Pass.
Yeah, yeah. I
The
can't.
Dilatov. I can't never
Yes, I
say
can't
it.
remember how to say
Dilatov
it properly.
Pass. Yes.
Whilst I was researching that, because obviously some people, as usual, said aliens.
Hmm.
So I was researching that. It turns out that was 1950s, wasn't it? In the 50s
Yeah,
or something.
1953, I think. Dialatov Pass
Right,
incident.
right. The Soviets, because was Russia wasn't Russia, it was the Soviet Union at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
The Soviets were really concerned about these lights in the sky. They kept on showing up when they were performing nuclear tests and everything like you were saying.
yeah.
And they really wanted to speak to the Americans about it, and they wanted to form sort of like a commission or joint investigation. But the Americans, unfortunately, said no,
Mm.
which was really silly because obviously now. So that's been going on for a while, but we never heard about it because it was all top secret and everything. But it's increasingly difficult to keep anything top secret now when everybody is blabbing into their phones and splashing it all on social media. So
Mm.
I think that possibly is what's going on. We were expecting a revelation. What do you call it again? You got an expression for it.
What
A
a
reveal.
revelation of disclosure.
You were expecting disclosure in, well, actually now, isn't it
Yes.
October?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I was expecting Sound of Freedom to lead to follow the
Uh-huh.
government.
No.
That never happened. So we'll see. Anyhow, getting back to this.
Yes.
Getting back to this. I was thinking to myself, and I thought, what is the most inexplicable ancient artifact that suggests we've had Earth has seen an earlier civilization? So what I did was I hit 5 AI engines, and 3 of them came back and said it's the, I don't know how to pronounce it properly. I'm going to try. It's the Göbekli Tepe,
Göbekli Tepe place in
T-shaped
Turkey,
pillars.
which we spoke about these,
We
didn't
spoke
we?
about them, but I didn't realize they were that inexplicable. But it says what makes Göbekli Tepe, and it's particularly the T-shaped pillars, because you had to balance a huge slab on top of another huge slab in a T shape, and the balance had to be precise.
Perfect. Yeah.
And apparently, I didn't even realize this. There are there are what do you call it when you joints for
Yeah.
placing them. So it's not just you place it and then you balance and then you hope for the best. They're actually joints, like hollows and things, so that one, like almost like Lego, if you know what I'm talking
Yeah, yeah,
about.
yeah. They
So
have to
that one
fit the
fits,
pieces together. Yeah.
fit the pieces in. And they were like, this is supposed to be 11,000 years ago, and we could hardly do it
I
today.
know. I
So
know.
never mind 11,000 years ago. So how do they, and you're talking about, I think when we spoke about it, we pointed out that there didn't even seem to be a settled agrarian culture.
No.
You're
No.
talking about nomads. How do you nomads get?
No.
It's
Exactly.
ridiculous.
They were still hunter gatherers, weren't they? They
They were still
hadn't.
hunter gatherers now. You don't even have time to settle down, form a hierarchical society,
No.
work, have an engineer, builders. You're moving from place to place.
Yeah.
How can you settle down and do all? Well, obviously, the answer is you can't.
No.
So then the question becomes, well, then who did?
Mm.
So,
Unless we're doing them a disservice,
well, I
where
mean, I don't
I
think we
mean,
are. I said, I live in northern Nigeria. We have nomads.
yeah.
They travel around in small groups. You're not going to be able to sit down and tell them, why would they?
Well, yeah,
They
indeed.
don't
What?
have the time to sit around and talk
No,
about,
because they're
temples
they're spending time surviving.
precisely. All right. The rainy season is coming or it isn't coming
Yeah.
or something. They've got to keep moving. They move. There's a reason why they're nomads, because they have to move in a certain way just to stay
Mm.
alive.
Yeah.
If they're not going to, because they don't farming and all that. So how is we going to get together and build this thing, and for what purpose?
Indeed.
No,
The only way things are built is when there is civilization. So you've
exactly.
got a civilized um civilization that are able to spend the time, they can feed their people, they know how to farm, they know how to provide food for workers, for instance. in order to get together and put something like that together. Because even if they they had a slave culture, for instance, they still have to feed the slaves. You don't want the slaves dying daily. You can't replace them quick enough. So you'd want to look after them. So you have to feed them. So you have to have ways of farming, producing enough food and water so that they could stay alive in order to construct a lot of these things. So civilization needed to be quite robust and established for these sorts of things to even be considered, let alone built. And some of the intricacies of some of these buildings belay the time period with the tools that we believe, although I believe we've got it wrong. They clearly knew a bit more than we give them credit for.
Well, we can't find them. This is the problem.
I know.
If you say the way they had access to metallic tools, wouldn't we be able to find them? There are no metallic
Not
tools.
just metallic, laser cutters. I mean, some
Yeah.
of the stuff that you look back, and we're not talking, you know, millions of years ago. We're talking, tens of thousands of years ago. Some of the stuff that's been discovered is mind-boggling. Like you say, this Gobekli Tepe, if I can't even say it.
Yeah, I know,
Gobekli Tepe. I mean, that's a few thousand years ago.
Yeah, 11,000, they reckon.
Yeah, it's
About
like
11,000.
what? What built these things? Were humans established enough? Was there a civilization that did have all the tools available, or do we go back to option B, which was my preferred option, of extraterrestrial
Why would they
intelligence?
come to Earth and then start erecting stone buildings?
No.
Would you really? Would we go to another planet and erect a stone building and, monoliths and things? I mean, we do advanced building.
Why not? Leaving marks.
What? I mean, why? It just doesn't make any
It's
sense.
equivalent of sticking a flag in the ground.
Well, I don't know.
They're leaving more structures which do not degrade, which have more long-lasting effects, rather than sticking a flag in the ground. This is my land. You build a structure to show this is my land and my influence, and this is our area, so to speak. I don't know.
Yes, I suppose so. And obviously, Göbekli Tepe is more complicated from the point of view of just the architecture, because there's some astronomical significance to some of the orientations of the stones and whatnot. So it's not just, oh, look at these humongous stones. It's like, oh, this one points this way at this time of the year, and that. So it does point to some astronomical knowledge as well, which makes it more.
But isn't that site? It still needs to be completely excavated, isn't it? There's still loads of it underground and undisturbed.
One person is the source of a conspiracy. So the single data point guy, he says that the WEF.
Oh no, we debunked this, didn't we?
Well, we debunked this. I don't want to go as far as debunked, but it's very questionable because it is a single data point, which means you can't really take it that seriously. It's like, where did you get all this from? Because I can't find anything to back him up.
Yeah.
Except the fact that they're not excavating the rest of it right now.
Well, it's because they haven't got the money, apparently. It's a big undertaking.
Pretty sure that Bill Gates could fund that. George Soros.
They don't.
Elon Musk.
Maybe they just haven't got the investment and they just can't. Or they're examining what they tend to have. What they do it. They do it in phases, don't they? They excavate a particular area, then they spend time analyzing the findings, try and raise more capital to continue for the next phase. It's very difficult to get the money. Even
Turkey probably has enough money to fund more excavation. I mean, they're not exactly broke. I mean,
but at the moment, it's more of a tourist attraction.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose.
A bit like Pompeii. And did you know? Oh, actually, that's an interesting one. Did you know Pompeii isn't all excavated either? We only discovered that. Yeah, it isn't. There's still about a third of it still underground that hasn't been excavated. So
It's
they're
probably a
still
good thing.
doing it.
Let us develop our technology, and we may be able to dig up even more, sort of even better, so to speak.
Possibly,
Because
yeah.
the 19th century archaeologists messed up a lot of things
Yeah.
with their primitive tools. So if experts think, yeah, we could dig it up, but we're not really there yet with our tech, then I would accept that as a very good reason to leave it alone.
Yeah, quite possibly. That could be the case in Turkey, thinking that we could actually damage what we're trying to excavate as opposed to preserve it. There is that risk. And again, that's very expensive to get specialist cameras in to see what's under there before they attempt to clear out and excavate it properly. So yeah, that all takes time, takes a lot of money to arrange and get together. And so yeah, that could be why it hasn't had any further excavation and remains as is. But I'd be fascinated once they do get the funding, if that is the thing, that we'll see where that takes us and what else is under there.
I want to share some pictures with you, which we're going to have to find a way of sharing it with our audience. I haven't really figured out how we're going to do exactly that yet, but
Easy,
well, we'll
easy.
put it on our Facebook thingy anyway.
No, but what we can do with the blurb of the show is we could share it on a one of the drives, one of the OneDrive, Google Drive, or equivalent, and share the image as a link. So
Right.
anybody
Oh,
clicking the
okay.
link can see it. So that's another option for sure.
Excellent suggestion. So this one is called Sage War, which Americans should recognize as it's in America, in Montana, in the United States of Israel, formerly known as United States of America.
Oh,
Sage War. Look at this.
okay. We can't show our. Could we share with our watching audience as we do this? We
Well,
could
if you
share.
can, I'm not
Let's
gonna.
actually, yeah, let's share this now. Let's see how this will work very quickly for our watching audience. Let's see. Can you see this image?
The screen started. Yeah. Oh, wow. Well done. Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Very
Now, I
clearly.
don't know whether our watching audience will be able to see this. We will still put it in the blurb. But while it's on the screen, do you want to talk around it, Tyler?
Well, this is but you can see monolithic structures. Monoliths or monolithic structures.
It's a
Huge.
sage wall in Montana,
Yeah.
USA. Yeah.
Sage War, Montana, USA. And it was built by persons unknown in the ancient past. And you're looking at these humongous blocks that form a wall. Who did it? How? How?
Indeed. These blocks are enormous.
These are big.
There's no mortar between the rocks.
Nope.
They are freestanding, but this thing's built to last. They're huge, and these rocks, they're all cut to size, all square, but slotted
Precisely.
in wonderfully. And some of them are enormous. So how could they have been moved? I don't understand. And this is in America.
This is in America. Now the skeptics say that this might be natural. Not sure. Not sure. I see how.
No, there's no way this is
I-
natural. That is the
very
most
difficult. Very
ridiculous,
difficult to believe
the most ridiculous statement, I think. I'll
because
stop
because
sharing
it's a
that, but
sheer it's a sheer wall. It's a
yeah,
sheer face.
yeah,
There are no unexplained bulges or whatever that might make you think, yeah, that's peculiar. That's in Montana. Now, you stop sharing that, but I've
yeah.
got
I did.
there's uh,
If you
not really interested
provide
in
some
that.
more, and then we'll.
Oh, yeah. Here we have.
So for our listening audience out there, we're not excluding you, of course, but
No, sorry about this.
please, when the show is released, then obviously have a look in the blurb that accompanies the show. The links to what we're talking about will be there.
This is my favorite, frankly, of all these really weird.
Okay, I will do the sharing again. This one is Tiwanaku in Bolivia. in
Tiwanaku.
Bolivia.
Well done for pronouncing that.
So let
I
me
tried to
share
avoid.
that again, if you can see it.
Look at that. Look at
So,
that.
Tayo, if you want to describe this to our listening
This
audience.
is a delicious building or whatever it is, site. It's huge. And then in the distance there, as you might not be able to see, unfortunately, where your cursor is now. That's well done for zooming in. That's a statue. I mean, this is humongous. But look at the beauty of the buildings, of the stonework, and how smooth and everything they are. And over here at the bottom, you can no, further up, go up a bit. Yeah, just there. Can you see where these stones jut out a bit?
Yes, these ones here.
Those
Yes,
ones there. Those
you can
are
see the shadow casting on the stones as
well,
they jut
yeah.
out. Yeah,
It's suggested that those are joints to something that used to be there. So can you imagine this? And then look, just look at how they raised the whole platform there and everything. How much effort, how much material went into that. I mean, it's gobsmacking.
it is
And
incredible,
and
isn't
here
it?
we can see because some of the edges are not quite as clean as with other structures. That right pillar, if you just
This
go to
one
your
here.
no,
Yes,
yeah, you see,
that one
it's not
there.
quite as clean. And someone said, and I don't know what you call the person, was it an archaeologist or historian, said, what is fascinating is that it really conforms with the idea of a lost technology, that there was a civilization that had reached the zenith of building. Then there was a
Indeed,
catastrophe or something. But for a while afterwards, there were people who remembered enough to almost be as good as what preceded.
indeed.
See,
I, I've
that's
I've got
that's
one.
yeah.
I've got one of Crisco in Peru. Um, I will share that in a moment for the
Hmm.
benefit of our watching audience. But again, like I said, it will be in the blurb, and hopefully, I don't know if you can see this now.
Oh, okay. I want to.
I mean,
Wow. Okay.
goodness me, what is going on
Are
here?
those figurines
Yes, along the top on the left
along the
hand,
top
because the
there?
image is sort of split into two,
So
and
that
one,
is absolutely not obviously a natural artifact because those are figurines.
yeah,
So there's no question about that being a natural artifact.
yeah.
Mm.
Bonkers, isn't it? How they've all been slotted together and cut to fit
And it's
together. I mean,
beautifully cut, beautifully
yeah.
fit.
For our listening audience, if you go online, in fact, using any browser and search
Mm.
for Granite Walls of Cusco, Peru, you'll find these
How do you spell
images.
Crisco, whatever it is?
Crusco, Cusco in Peru.
Crusco.
Crusco.
There we
And
go.
you'll find examples of these pictures here of the walls that have been built. And they're all stones that have been cut together. They seem to be smoothed over somehow and slotted into place.
Mm.
So rather than cut each one to a certain standard and make a wall like we make bricks to make walls nowadays, but we put cement to hold the wall together, these have all been cut at different angles to fit as and when they're added on top, which seems strange as a design, but they must have had confidence in their cut in the stone ability in order to cut it so well so that it all slots together as it does. It's incredible, incredible. So, but
But
these,
we do need to be a bit careful because one of the one of the reasons why I keep asking, as pointing out to the fact that there are figurines
mm,
in there and all this sort of thing, is because of the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. Now, do you know anything about the Giant's
I've
Causeway?
been there. I've
Oh, you've been
been
there.
on there. Yes, I've
All
been
right.
there. And that
So,
is mind-boggling in
but it's
itself.
natural, isn't it? That's the problem. So I'm sharing it
Well,
with
they
you.
say it's natural. it's really, really quite unusual. Um, Again, we've got another image of it that I will again share with our
Mm.
audience. So we'll share all these, as I
I
said,
believe
on the
I believe
blur.
it's natural simply because there are other examples of it around the world.
Yeah,
So, but I mean, it's still mind blowing, mind
very
boggling.
strange. I mean, I've done what these people are sat on top of
Oh, have
these.
you?
Yeah, I've done
Oh, wow.
this. It is yeah, it's very, very strange. And how they form these rocks and all
Mm.
intertwined to one another. It's bizarre. So again, we will share this with the audience. So yeah, that's naturally occurring, but I'm unsure about the
Mm.
previous ones
No,
because
well, I mean, all right. So then the final one, because this is my absolute
favorite.
mind blowing thing, which I think we've spoken about it. I think we've spoken about it before. With the temple at Baalbek
Oh, I don't recall this one.
in the
Ah,
temple.
yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
They're actually the foundation stones.
Wow. Oh,
Yes.
that Romans built on top of.
Well, I'm
But
not sure that.
The Roman architecture was so pathetic. I mean, by our standards, ooh, Roman architecture, ooh, isn't it grand? But when compared to these foundation stones, you just feel sorry for the Romans because it's like it's so
Yeah,
inconsequential.
these were 90 tons each.
This is 1,000 tons you're looking at.
This one's a thousand. Oh wow, these the smaller ones. There must have been 90. These are just
These are
ridiculous.
the actual, and this is where the stone appears to have come from because this isn't anywhere near the temple, by the way.
No,
That is why it's called the mother Baalbek, the mother stone.
the
This is
Mother
where,
Baalbek Foundation stone.
yeah, that this would have come from here. Was 1,000 tons. How would you transport 1,000 tons? How'd you
Wow.
cut it? You know, basically, what's going on?
Hmm. It is
Real
incredible,
mysteries.
isn't it?
This
It
is the
is.
sort
They
of thing
are.
that makes you think, okay, we don't understand. There's no point even poo-pooing this. There's no cynicism or skepticism here.
No, no.
This is inexplicable. We can't
Yeah,
explain this.
no, indeed.
And there we have it.
It is odd, isn't it? I mean, the the walls, like in Crisco, the granite walls, the pyramid stones, how they've been put together, and also the fact that they align with certain astrological events.
Mm,
Very, very clever. You know, astronomy and mathematics in with some of these buildings that have been aligned and created, and they've been repeated. Like the pyramids aren't just in Egypt; there's
no.
some elsewhere around the globe.
Yeah,
So,
Peru is
so do we conclude that ancient civilizations were indeed all over the world? That sounds a bit far fetched. That they all come up with the same designs and the same way of building.
I the reason I pointed out that Bolivian example and mentioned the architecture and the deteriorating quality is because it appears there was a mother civilization,
What do you mean by a mother civilization?
the original, the actual advanced civilization. It could have been Lemuria or Atlantis or whatever the hell it was called, but there seems to have been one where it really did achieve their height of technology, height of science, height of maths, height of everything, right?
Yeah,
Then there was a catastrophe and people scattered. If you like,
right.
it's almost this story of the Tower of Babel in the Bible, something like that. The people scattered and they took with them memories and abilities that they could not quite replicate to the
Right.
same degree as the original mother civilization.
I
So
see.
you have these giant pyramids in Giza in Egypt. You have equally, no, not equally large, but you have large pyramids, but by no means as grand and as technologically adept in Sudan.
Yeah.
So people moving away after this disaster, they remembered, oh, let's build a pyramid, but they couldn't pull it off.
Hmm.
In Peru, pyramids, couldn't quite pull it off. So it seems that, yeah, you can actually go back and say, well, starting from here and flowing outwards was this dispersal diaspora,
Yeah.
and which suggests again a catastrophe that overtook a civilization, a more centralized civilization. Like you said, there were fewer people, so it possibly they were all in one place.
Mm. Quite possibly. I mean,
Yeah.
the Silurian hypothesis itself, though, is looking for markers which are even older than the ones we're aware of. Because at the minute, we've discussed a lot of physical evidence that
Mm.
still remains. Although the Silurian hypothesis seems to look at what's the possibility of civilizations where all known artifacts have been destroyed, there isn't any. So you're starting to look at other markers, such as if they'd learned, I don't know, how to use
The atom,
chemicals.
for
Yeah,
example.
chemical signatures, isotopic evidence in half-life of material. So were they that technologically advanced that they could and learn about, radioactive material? Then you could see half-life evidence of that in the surrounding area. So yeah, those are the sort of things. Even I don't know, industrialized
So in
materials like
Pakistan, for example,
chemicals.
is that the one you're talking about?
Which one? Sorry.
The Mohenjo-Daro in present day Mohenjo-Daro in present day Pakistan. It's been the subject of interest and controversy because it seems to have ancient radioactivity.
Wow. There you
Oh, did you
go.
know about that? I thought that's what you're talking about.
No, no, no. I didn't know about that particular site, but that was one of the Silurian hypothesis indicators, was to look for isotopic evidence,
Hmm.
because that way that would imply that they knew about radioactivity, and that would result in a advanced civilization, because radioactivity is not something for the light-hearted. You, you've got to use intelligence to work it out and understand those principles, and whether it can actually work or not. So yeah, that's a good indicator if that has been discovered. I'm
And
mindful we're getting the top of the hour here, so
44 skeletons found on the streets of this
hmm,
Mohenjo-Daro.
yeah.
44 skeletons found in the streets, with some theories proposing they were victims of a sudden and catastrophic event.
Wow.
So
Nuclear? Who knows?
who can tell?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Okay. Do you have any final closing words on this?
Ah, though I believe in ancient civilization, it's entirely possible. I mean, okay, so I think it's ridiculous to not at least accept that there was an Atlantis, because we've seen the eye of the Sahara. I mean, it's there.
We spoke about it as well.
We've
Covered it on
seen
the
it, we've
show.
spoken about it. We know that there was a water level on the Sphinx that meant that at some point it was partially submerged for quite a long time. So we know these things. There's no point arguing about it. How advanced is where I query. On the other hand, which we forgot to even deal with, and it's too late now. On the other hand, those images you sent me of the four artifacts from around the world,
Yes,
of
yes.
these technologically advanced
We need to share that with our audience as well in this
pilots,
episode.
they look like helmeted pilots,
Yeah, I know,
and this is from
incredible.
thousands of years ago,
I know.
and they actually had their hands on what looks like, what do you call it? A steering wheel,
Yeah,
not wheels exactly. What do you call them? Steering, like joysticks or something.
yeah. Steering
So
columns and things.
steering
Yeah,
steering columns. They actually had their hands on steering columns. This is from thousands of years ago. Look, man. I mean, there's a question there. So yeah,
yeah,
I'm not
incredible.
going to poo-poo it. I'm not going to dismiss it.
Okay, right.
I can't dismiss it.
Now, our lovely audience, I hope you've loved this episode.
It's been a bit out there.
Yeah, but If you have enjoyed it, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes on more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexplained twists of fate. Now, you've listened to Tony and Tayo. We are the TNT Talk Show, but unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.